Hey Reddit, I'm Daniel, 36, and I just found out that the woman I trusted with my entire future betrayed me in a way I never could have imagined. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy posting here. I always saw stories like this and thought, damn, that sucks, but that would never happen to me. Until it did. My wife, Emily, I had been together for 9 years, married for 6. We had a great life, or so I thought. We both had solid careers, owned a home, and the only thing missing was a baby. We had been trying to conceive for years with no luck. It was exhausting, heartbreaking, frustrating, but we never gave up. We went through the tests, the procedures, and finally decided to go for IVF. If you've ever gone through IVF, you know how emotionally and financially draining it is. It takes everything out of you. But when Emily got pregnant, I thought, finally, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. And yeah, everything did change, just not in the way I expected. Because my wife, she had been hiding the darkest secret imaginable. The first time I noticed something was off was during her second trimester. Emily had been acting weird, more secretive than usual. She changed her phone password, which she had never done before, started getting defensive over the smallest things, and when I tried to bring up baby names, she shut the conversation down immediately. It felt like she was keeping something from me, but I pushed it out away. I told myself, she's just stressed. Pregnancy hormones. You're overthinking it. Except, then there were the doctor's appointments. I always went with her. Always. I want to be part of every single step of this journey. But at one point, she started insisting that she could go alone. We don't need to waste both our work hours on this, she'd say with a forced smile. Everything is fine, babe. That was the first red flag. The second, she started dodging questions about the clinic. I was supposed to be on all the paperwork, but when I asked to see some of the results, she changed the subject. I didn't press too hard, because who wants to stress out their pregnant wife, right? But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I just had no idea how bad it really was. The truth came out in the most brutal way possible. One evening, Emily was in the shower, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't the kind of guy who snooped. I believed in trust, but something told me to look, so I did. And that's when I saw the name on the screen. Tyler, Emily's ex. We hadn't spoken about this guy in years. I knew they had a messy breakup before we met, but she always insisted they were done and had no contact. So why the hell was he texting her now? I opened the message, and what I read, it obliterated my entire world. Tyler, are you sure he still doesn't suspect anything? Tyler, I still can't believe we pulled this off. He has no idea? Tyler, you're seriously going to name the baby after me, right? My chest tightened. I scrolled up. More messages. Emily, he doesn't know anything. I made sure of it. As far as he's concerned, this is his baby. I nearly dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. My mind was screaming. This had to be some kind of joke, right? A misunderstanding? There was no way she was saying what I thought she was saying. I scrolled even further, my heart pounding in my ears. And then, in black and white, I saw the message that destroyed me. Emily, I still can't believe the clinic let us switch the embryo. He never even questioned why I insisted on handling everything myself. I stared at the words, my breath catching in my throat. My wife, the woman I built my life with, the woman I trusted, had swapped our embryo for her ex's. And I had no idea. I don't even remember setting her phone down. I just remember standing there, my whole body numb. This wasn't some mistake. This wasn't an accident. This was premeditated. A deliberate, calculated betrayal. She had lied to me. She had robbed me of my own child. And she had done it with a man she swore she hadn't spoken to in years. And then, she had looked me in the eyes every single day, pretending like everything was fine. I heard the shower turn off. Footsteps. And then Emily walked into the room, towel wrapped around her, smiling like she wasn't the worst person on the planet. But me? I couldn't even look at her. Because the woman standing in front of me, she wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger, a liar, a monster, and she had no idea what was coming next.
Emily walked into the bedroom, still drying her hair with a towel, completely unaware that I had just discovered her biggest secret. She smiled at me like nothing had changed, like she wasn't a betrayer, a liar, a manipulator. "Hey, babe," she said casually. "What do you want for dinner?" I just stared at her, because at that moment, I didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of me. I had shared a life with this person, trusted her, fought beside her through every struggle, every hardship, every damn procedure just to have a child. And the whole time, she had been playing me. I was done pretending. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice to stay calm. So, Emily, tell me something. She looked up, raising an eyebrow. Yeah. I held up her phone. How long have you been planning this? Her face immediately paled. The towel dropped from her hands. She knew. She knew exactly what I was talking about. But instead of answering, she went into full damage control mode. Ryan, I can explain. I laughed. Cold, humorless laugh. Oh, I'd love to hear you explain this, I said, tossing the phone onto the bed. Go ahead. Explain how you swapped our embryo for your ex's. Explain how you carried another man's child while making me believe it was mine. She flinched. Then she did something that made my blood boil. She started crying. Ryan, please, she choked out, tears forming in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I clenched my fists. Oh, you didn't? So what was the plan, Emily? Let me raise your ex's kid as my own while you sat back and laughed. She shook her head frantically. No, it wasn't like that. I stepped forward, my voice dangerously low. Then what was it like? She hesitated. And that's when I knew. She had no excuse. She was just stalling, trying to figure out how to lie her way out of this. I scoffed. You know what? It doesn't even matter. Because you just lost everything. Her eyes widened in panic. Ryan, please, we can work through this. I laughed again, shaking my head. There is no we anymore, Emily. There never was. You made that choice the second you let another man replace me. She let out a sob. I still love you. I clenched my jaw. No, you don't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. She reached for me, but I stepped back. And that's when the switch flipped. Her tears vanished. Her expression hardened. And suddenly, she wasn't the crying, regretful wife anymore. She was the real Emily, the one who had orchestrated this entire betrayal, the one who thought she could lie and manipulate her way out of anything. You don't get to act like a victim, she snapped, her voice cold. I raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? She crossed her arms. You think this is all my fault? You're the one who couldn't get me pregnant. I froze. For a second, I actually thought I had misheard her. But no, she had actually said it. She was really blaming me. I exhaled sharply, my entire body tensing with anger. You are unbelievable, I muttered. You betray me, lie to my face for months, and now you're blaming me for what you did? Her eyes flashed. I did what was best for us. I laughed. Best for us? Or best for you? Silence, because she knew the answer. I shook my head. You're a piece of work, Emily. She crossed her arms. So what? You're just going to leave? Walk away from everything? I stared at her for a long moment. Then I smirked. Oh, Emily, I said slowly. I'm not just leaving. I stepped closer, leaning in just enough to watch the fear creep into her eyes. I'm going to destroy you. She blanched. What? I picked up my phone. Hope you enjoy explaining all of this in court, because by the time I'm done, you won't have a cent to your name. Her breath hitched. Ryan, she whispered, her voice shaking now. You wouldn't. I grinned. Watch me. And then, I grabbed my keys and walked out the door, because from this moment forward, Emily didn't exist to me anymore. But she was about to learn that I wasn't the kind of man you betray and get away with it.
I didn't just walk away. I walked away with a plan. Emily thought she could ruin my life and get away with it. She thought I'd be too shocked, too heartbroken to fight back. She thought wrong, because this wasn't just about our marriage anymore. This was about justice, and I was about to make sure she paid for what she did. The first thing I did was contact a divorce lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the best one I could find, because I wasn't just looking for a clean break. I wanted to make sure Emily lost everything. I laid everything out on the table. The betrayal, the messages, the embryo switch. My lawyer listened carefully, nodding as he took notes. Then he looked me in the eye and said, We're going to bury her. I smiled. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Step 2. Exposing the truth. Emily had spent months lying to me, pretending she was carrying our child while she was actually playing house with her ex's baby. She had built an entire life on deception, so I decided to burn it to the ground. I started with her family. Her parents always thought she was perfect, the golden child. I wasn't particularly close with them, but I knew one thing for sure. They hated Tyler. They knew all about their daughter's toxic history with him. They had begged her to stay away from him, so I made sure they knew exactly what she had done. I forwarded them screenshots of the messages. Every disgusting, incriminating message between Emily and Tyler. Every single one where she admitted to swapping the embryos. Then I turned my phone off and waited. It didn't take long. The next morning, Emily called me 23 times. I ignored every single one. Then, she started texting. Emily, what the hell did you do? Emily, my parents are furious. Emily, they won't even talk to me. Emily, you ruined my life. I smiled. Good. She was just getting started. But that was just the beginning. Next, I went after Tyler. Because this wasn't just Emily's betrayal. He was just as guilty. And he thought he could slide back into Emily's life without consequences. He was about to get a wake-up call. I found him on social media. His profile was full of pictures of him and his current girlfriend. Oh, so he was two-timing Emily? Interesting. I did a little digging. Found the girlfriend's profile. Sent her a friendly message. And by friendly, I mean I dropped every single screenshot of Tyler's messages with Emily in her inbox. Then I sat back and waited. A few hours later, Emily called again. This time, I picked up because I wanted to hear her panic. She was sobbing. You told her? She choked out. I smirked. Told who what? Tyler's girlfriend, she screamed. She found out everything. She dumped him. She's posting all over social media about how he's a lying, cheating bastard. I raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a personal problem. Emily screamed in frustration. I could almost picture her pacing in the apartment, completely losing her mind. You ruined everything, she wailed. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I did. Then I hung up. With Emily's life in flames, it was time for the final step. I wanted to make sure she was legally and financially wrecked. So I met up with my lawyer again. We filed for divorce immediately. And because of her fraud, I was able to hit her with everything. I got the house. I got the car. I got every asset that mattered. She got nothing. Because guess what? Courts don't look kindly on people who commit medical fraud. And switching an embryo without consent, that's exactly what she did. Her lawyer tried to fight back, tried to argue that it was a misunderstanding. But I had evidence. I had her own words. She was screwed. And the best part? Because she lost everything in the divorce, she couldn't even afford a decent lawyer. She was drowning. And I was watching from the shore, smiling. The final nail in the coffin? Her parents cut her off. They were horrified by what she had done. Her own mother called me in tears, apologizing over and over again. She told me they had disowned her. She wasn't welcome in their house. They wanted nothing to do with her. It was over. Emily had lost everything. And me? I was free. Free from the lies. Free from the betrayal. Free from her. And it felt amazing. A few months later, I heard through the grapevine that Emily had moved away. Apparently, she was trying to start fresh somewhere else. But no matter where she went, she would always be the woman who betrayed her husband, who swapped an embryo to trap a man that wasn't even loyal to her. And that was a consequence she would never escape. As for me, I had built my life back up. I was happier than ever. And by the time Emily finally realized what she had lost, it was far too late, because I had already moved on. For good.
Emily should have disappeared. She had lost the divorce, lost her reputation, lost the family that once worshipped her. She had nothing, and I thought that meant she was finally out of my life for good. I was wrong, because Emily wasn't just a liar. She was delusional, and she still thought she could crawl back and fix things. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I was finally feeling free. No more stress, no more manipulation. I had been rebuilding my life, focusing on work, traveling, and just enjoying the peace of not being tied to a walking disaster. Then, I got an email from Emily. I stared at my screen for a full minute, debating whether to delete it unread. But curiosity won. I opened it, and what I read was so ridiculous I actually laughed. Emily's email. Ryan, I know you hate me. I know I made mistakes, but I still love you. And I know deep down you still love me too. I snorted. We had something special. We can have it again. I've thought a lot about everything, and I realize now that I only did what I did because I wanted us to be happy. You always said you wanted a family, and I was just trying to give us that. Give us that? She stole that from me. I miss you, Ryan. Please, can we just talk? Just one conversation. I know we can work through this. I laughed out loud. Work through this? She committed medical fraud. She carried another man's baby behind my back. And she thought I was going to talk it out with her like we were some couple who just had a misunderstanding? Was she out of her damn mind? I didn't respond. I didn't even give her the satisfaction of knowing I read it. I blocked her email because she didn't exist to me anymore, and I was never looking back. A few weeks passed. No more emails, no texts, no calls. I thought maybe, finally, she got the message. Then Matt called, and the second I heard his tone, I knew something was up. Hey, I answered. What's going on? He sighed. Dude, Emily's back in town. I blinked. What? She showed up at Mom and Dad's house. I felt my stomach drop. Why? Matt hesitated. Then he said, she's telling people she wants to make amends. I clenched my jaw. Amends? Matt exhaled. She told Mom she wants to fix things with you, that she knows she messed up, but she's ready to earn your trust again. I burst out laughing, because this woman was completely delusional. Did she really think I was just going to forget everything and take her back? Did she think I was that stupid? Matt chuckled. I told Mom to shut it down. She's not getting anywhere near you. I shook my head. Good. She's insane if she thinks I'd ever speak to her again. She's desperate, dude, Matt said. She's lost everything. She probably thinks if she convinces you to forgive her, she can get her old life back. I smirked. She's about to learn that I don't do second chances. I ignored her. Again. I didn't engage, didn't acknowledge her. And just like before, it drove her insane. Because when manipulative people lose control over you, they start to spiral. And Emily? She was about to implode. A few nights later, I was coming home from work. I pulled into my driveway, got out of my car, and froze. Because there, sitting on my front porch, was Emily. My hands tightened into fists. She stood up, fake sadness all over her face. Ryan, she said softly. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm. Leave. She took a step forward. Just hear me out. No. She flinched. I stared at her, my expression blank. There is nothing left to say. You destroyed everything. You don't get to waltz back into my life like it didn't happen. Her eyes filled with tears. I was wrong, Ryan. I know that now, but I can change. I can be better. I tilted my head. Better? You think this is about you being a better person? This is about the fact that you committed the ultimate betrayal. She wiped at her tears. We can fix this. I smiled, but not a nice smile. Cold one. Emily, I said, my voice calm. You need to listen to me carefully. She nodded, hopeful. I would rather set myself on fire than ever let you back into my life. Her face crumpled. Ryan. I pointed at the street. Get off my property. She froze. Then, she snapped. Her face twisted with pure rage. You're a monster, she hissed. I smirked. Says the woman who stole my child from me. Her nostrils flared. I hope you die alone. I chuckled. Better alone than with a psychopath like you. She let out a frustrated scream. Then she stormed off, got in her car, drove away, and I walked inside, locked the door, and never looked back. That was the last time I ever saw Emily. She tried reaching out a few more times, but I ignored her. Eventually, she disappeared completely. And me? I moved on. For real this time. No more baggage. No more lies. No more being trapped in a marriage with a manipulative, heartless fraud. I built my life back from scratch, and I did it without her, because in the end, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to keep looking back. I had already won. I had escaped, and that was the greatest victory of all.